but you can build up your stock. And it's always good to, I suppose, try and see what works and what doesn't work and what's selling. And it's very good to ask your customers as well, what actually do they want, do they need, and are you meeting their needs, or can you improve? So we bring you then into Etsy again a little bit further, and it actually some videos here, some helpful videos on how to use it to your benefit. Okay, so we talked about cosplay, and cosplay is actually a huge growing trend, especially with Game of Thrones. We see people dressing up when they come to the north of Ireland, for example. I know Game of Thrones is staged all across Europe, and they're actually reenacting, for example, Ned Stark beheading whoever he beheads up in the north of Ireland, and we see people walking through the tunnels and obviously using creative apps to set the stage as though they are in Game of Thrones and with their costumes on. So what we've noticed is that there are actually young people and they're selling these props. So they're actually going around with a little van and they're selling the swords, selling the capes, and actually taking photographs and selling the photographs as well as a little business idea during their summer holidays. So there's where the Welly is an example again. So that's all her platforms, her Instagram, her YouTube, so you can see them all there if you want to have another little dig. And this is always good as well to go into her website. So in her website, she obviously shows her Amazon storefront. So what you can do is you can take your idea and look at what she does and how she's done it, so that you don't feel like you're starting from scratch. And as like with Ellie, is that it all happened by accident, and she just, one thing happened after another. It was like a domino effect. And you can see her YouTube channel, her Facebook, her Amazon wish list, her Ko-fi, her Etsy. And I think what's really important about Ellie, if we can all learn from her, is that she realized very quickly different audiences latch onto different platforms. So some people who are not a Facebook user, they're probably an Instagram user. So it's good to have yourself available on the different sites and up and coming sites such as TikTok. And they all have their own benefits and their own, you have to, I suppose, tailor your communication message to the different platforms. So let's have a little look here at, that's just a little interview with Ellie. So we can look at place-based opportunities. So for example, what I said about Game of Thrones, like in Malta, there's different areas. There's the Dark Road Hedges in Northern Ireland. There's Iron Ireland, that's in Northern Ireland as well. And it's actually done huge benefit as a domino effect to the rest of the tourism economy in the north of Ireland. And what you can do is even reenact the scenes yourselves and sell them, or create role plays, or create, like for example, maybe you've set up a little coffee van and it could be themed with the Game of Thrones, if that's what you want to do. So it's very easy to adjust, and you know, you could, if you wanted to remove yourself from that location, go somewhere else, you could actually change your, we'll say, coffee van into another theme that suits another location, or just go back to your generic. So it's a very flexible business model that can be used. And this is an example of a Game of Thrones tour, one in Northern Ireland. And what they've looked at is, these are the different areas of the Iron Islands, the Dragonstone, Renly's Camp. So it's actually a full holiday, it's a full itinerary for Game of Thrones enthusiasts. And we can't see that going away because it was hugely popular. It's one of those, I suppose, series that you could watch over and over again. So this is the one we talked about quickly yesterday, which is in Poland, and it's a multi-day Harry Potter event, multi-day event for Harry Potter, and it costs probably about €300 to attend. So there is quite a lucrative market there. And they have classes, social activities, you dress up, and I suppose that brings in the cosplay again as well. So the pop culture extends as well into blogging. So we'll see there's a lot of blogging enthusiasts out there, like for example, FemPop, that's Alex Cran's blog, and she talks about feminism and mainstream women's events, and she actually talks about I suppose using pop culture as a way to communicate messages in feminism and education, and with female issues in the world today. Then we look at like teen decor and furniture. So you can see there's a really, really broad aptitude out there and a broad selection of products and services that you can extend into to replicate or to engage in pop culture. So what we have is, I suppose, in all of our resources is we have some links. So we've given just a brief introduction to that section. And then if you click on the link, it'll give you a list of pop culture inspired furniture, some examples there, so you can dig a little deeper. So I spoke about yesterday about the little Hobbit home in Donegal. So this is a B&B business, and it's obviously a perfect location. It's a low-cost capital asset for this business, and it's proven to be, I suppose, unique, and the team fits in well with the Hobbits. That's Jaws, of course, we all know him. And that's the thing about pop culture as well. Like when you look at that, it's immediate, it's Jaws. So you're well aware when you look at it, you're immediately familiar and connected to the pop culture world. It becomes ingrained in our culture. So these are techniques to come up with different ideas. So what we look at is, how would you like your business to be and why? So first of all, we always say you should probably start with researching and looking what's out there already, and do a quick Google search. And then you look at what you want to achieve, what your social targets are, what your interests and passions are. And then we go into, well, let's dig a little deeper and let's figure out, well, what are you going to do with those ideas? And is it going to be viable? Is it possible? Is it actually going to work? So this is another example of pop culture. So this is a nail polish brand, OP, and they've used pop culture to talk about colors that pop. So they're all resonating, obviously the bright blues and the bright reds and yellows with pop culture. So with the Scamper tool, what you do is you get targeted questions to help you solve a problem. And it kind of brings your creativity and brainstorming to fore. And it's always good to do this with a group if you can. It's best used with trigger products, cards or images, something to simulate, like you've often heard probably of a mood board or an ideas board. So you get, I suppose, from your research, you can get some images and put them on a board, and that's really good visual to inspire some ideas. And so I'm just trying to briefly bring you through, because I don't want to spend too long on all of these sections, because there is a lot of material. So with the Scamper tool, once you get your idea, okay, so there's something really good out there already. How can you substitute that idea? How can you actually make it better or combine it with something else? How can you adapt? How can you modify or put it to other use? And then what can you eliminate, or does something need to be eliminated or changed? And obviously reverse the process. So when you think of an idea, how do you reverse this idea? Is it actually flip it on its head and see what comes out of it? And it's a great discussion tool to have. So let's look at the questions. So the question tool is there something you could do that's edgy in pop culture? So what would you do, or anyone else? Is there something that you would like to do that someone else is too scared to do? Do you see some idea that people haven't explored just yet? Is there any way you can sell something tomorrow? So we spoke about Etsy again as an online. You can always set up your own online website as well through WordPress or other website platforms. And obviously with the enterprise boards, there's vouchers out there to do some online training. And that's, sorry, respective of Ireland and the UK. I'm not sure about other countries. And what ideas? So it's no harm actually looking at other ideas out there and replicating them. So maybe we need an Irish version. Maybe, and especially with a global platform, there's no reason why you can't probably improve on what's out there and sell it as well. So I suppose this guy, Michael O'Leary, I'm sure you're all aware of him, from Ryanair. What would he do in this situation? So he's all about bootstrapping and how to build a business, a streamlined, efficient and cost-effective business. So how can you do it thinking of that? Like, for example, we talk about in one of the modules, pop-up shops. And there is an example there where somebody got an old car and they decorated it in pop culture theme. and they opened up the book, sold their merchandise from it, and then they went to different markets to sell. And your local market or community market is a perfect place for that. And it's a good way to test your merchandise and your idea as well. And obviously talk to people and promote it. And actually get them, I suppose, to tell you what they think so that you can modify and improve. And how can you stand up from the crowd? Like, we know you could have the best thing in the world, but if it doesn't look good, then it's not going to sell. So branding and marketing is really, really important in how you communicate that. You'll see from our resources here, for example, here we use really strong images. That's the brand around the EPIC project. So if you're creating your own brand, consider, well, what does it look like? What are those images and colors, etc., that need to be used? And that helps you to stand out from the crowd. And then your lowest cost options. So what have you got to begin with? So what is your funding and your availability? Well, can I just check with my time, please? I'm just thinking, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're on mute. Oh,
sorry.
You're all right. I'm just checking in on my time.
You're okay. You can run on a wee bit and then you can adjust your second.
Okay, that's grand. So what time? I'm finished at what time? Sorry.
You're finished at 1:45.
That's grand. Okay, just want to make sure that we've enough time. So we'll finish up in the next few minutes and then we can delve into the business ideas and come up with your own. So then there's the involved tool. So the involved tool is where you invite everybody to help in search of new ideas, experiences. You involve your customers. So it's a lot more engagement. So it's not just you on your own, and you bring in probably other entrepreneurs as well. You seek ideas from other people's customers. So there's no harm going out in the street and doing probably a little market research questions tool. And involve suppliers. So who are your suppliers? Have a chat to them and see how they can help you and the cost availability, etc. So then there's the mind map tool. So with the mind map tool, it's more of a graphic and more of a visual tool. And it's where you can probably, I suppose, get a representation of your business and think of all the different situations where to come. So look, we have Tony Buzz on, so if you want to go in there and have a look, you'll see how it actually works. But this is what it looks like. It's probably better for the logical people or the people who like to map things out, especially when there's a lot of stuff or a lot of ideas going on in your head, and it helps you consider every aspect of your business idea that you need to do. So you start with a blank page. You use an image or a picture as your central idea. So what is your initial idea? And that could change throughout as well. The colours are different aspects. So one is probably focused on selling, the other is on your target market. And then have a keyword as well to indicate what that line is. So then you look at the evaluation. So you look at the possibility and the viability. So how much do you want to make? Like, is it possible to make what you want to make? When can you start, or how do you start, or where do you go? Where do you begin with? And how much does it cost? Is it simple? Is it complicated? Do you need a bit of help? Maybe you need a bit of mentoring. And then obviously the supports in terms of IPs and patents, and, you know, do you understand how Google works? And one of the most important areas, which will be discussed later on, is market research and market validation. So there are a couple of tools, okay? So I'm just going to go into another couple of ideas. I'm going to move swiftly on here. So this is the Farrier and Frapper Bar and Restaurant in Dublin. And what they've done is they've actually taken the Peaky Blinders theme. So what they have is they have all of this is a brand new space, but it looks really old. And they've made it look like a old 40s, I suppose. And there's different spaces. So like there's a restaurant, there's bars, there's different rooms that you can go to and experience that theme, because it is really, I suppose, strong in the TV world today. Then we have obviously wall art. So street art is another up and coming, and it's actually really cost affordable as well for young people. And when we look at, for example, the Bogside artists in Derry, I'm sure you've all heard of the Derry Girls. And this is a famous, they've actually about 11 different murals across Derry, and they sell posters and books, and they have an online website. And that's, I suppose, the Derry girls have really launched what they do, and it's in team with pop culture. So they've really leveraged into that. So here's the gallery. They've actually got a walk with a tour as well. Sorry if I forgot about that. Now, what we have as well is, here is the Game of Thrones. So if you want to look in this section of the presentation, you can look at so Days Tours Unplugged, and what they look at is Braveheart and Vikings and Excalibur and other films that have been touched on across Ireland and filmed and are quite famous as well. So you can actually reset the scene and set the whole experience. So it's quite different, and it's a really good experience. And this is Poland, where they have a permanent exhibition of street art. And what they do is and it's great for dilapidated buildings and bring a touch of colour and art into your streets. And it's a great way of creating expression, but also telling stories of history and bringing attention to buildings for tourists. So here's some more ideas. Game of Thrones again. Then we have, this is the Peaky Blinders again. So what this store have done, there's a drapers, and they're still selling the same suits they always did, but this was brought in new stock as well. But they're marketing now with an angle for pop culture. So you can see here, even their photography resonates pop culture and Peaky Blinders. So what we're going to do now is, I'm just going to take that away. We're going to talk about your ideas and potential ideas that you may have. And if anything has come to mind, or maybe there are, sorry, no, I'll stop share. So maybe there are different businesses out there that you already know about, or pop culture, or has an idea come to mind of what you can do, or maybe just discuss what your hobbies are and what your interests are, your passions, that we can all have a chat about and discuss. And if you don't feel like putting up your hand, so if you go into their participant section, click on that. There's a little hand down there at the bottom. It should be anyway. Yep, so see little raise hand, I can see it in there in the right hand side. If you click on that to raise your hand, or if you don't want to do that, you can just put a little question in the chat. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat here. Okay, so has anybody, I suppose, seen or experienced or have existing murals or that they can think of that are in their own destinations and locations? Have you seen it? Like, I know, for example, in Sligo here, we have W.B. Yeats and all the different Irish writers, and they've really brought the town to life. And a lot of people take photographs of them, and we have actually got Instagram sections. And I suppose we all know W.B. Yeats is Ireland's, is it only or first Nobel Peace Prize winner. So that's just an example that I can think of off the top of my head straight away.
I suppose up in Belfast here, if you're talking about murals, there's all the sort of historical and political murals, which are very high on sort of business opportunities, and a lot of tourists come from all around the world, and there's different taxi tours, and you can get one-on-one sort of tours around that explain all the murals and right around Belfast. So it's a big industry.
Fantastic. And I think, Paul, maybe as well, like young people can easily step into Uber, so you don't have to be part of actually a taxi company, and you could set up your own little tour if you wanted to, especially if you're into speaking history about your locality. So I'm sure, like in a lot of destinations, there is a history or a story to be told that people want to come and it's top of their bucket list. So I think that's one really good example. And then You know, obviously the photography and the merchandise that comes with that. There's no reason why you can't sell the merchandise, the t-shirts, the hats, or whatever it is, and be a little bit quirky about it and step outside the box. Maybe you're into creativity and artistry, and you can create your own print and become known for that print and put your name to it. Just gonna have a little look here. So you mentioned blogging. Could you do a bit further? Oh yeah, blogging. Okay, so what some people do is, like, there's a few different ways you can do this, is they can talk about different pop culture that's already out there. So they talk to the pop culture audience. You could blog about your merchandise or what you're doing, and like Weirdo Ellie could talk about everything she does. The great thing about blogging is that it creates the story behind who you are. So if people know more about you and know that you're a young person and they can connect with you and resonate with you, blogging is a great way to have that conversation with people. And it's a great way to ask people to interact with you, because you can add in a comment section at the bottom of your blog so they can ask you questions and you can integrate. And then you can find out what their interests are and what they need. And like Ellie was saying on Etsy there, I keep going back to Ellie, but for example, the wigs, well, I can't find this wig, so you can make it, or you can find out what their needs are. So it's a great way to test your market. Another question here, how about gaming enthusiasts streaming on platforms like Twitch? To be honest with you, Myra, I don't know Twitch. I'm not a gaming person, but there is a great way to, I suppose, develop and create gaming programs out of pop culture.
Yeah, I must admit, Laura, I'm not, I certainly am no expert on it, but as it just so happens, my niece is on Twitch and has spent 4 or 5 years building up a business on Twitch.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So I know it's possible, and I know the kind of work that it can take. But it's the interesting thing about that is that my niece would openly say herself, she's not the best gamer in the world, but it's not really about the gaming, it's about the performing, and it's about building your community. And Twitch is a subscription service. So it means that if you engage with your community and if your story is resonating with them, and you're continually having conversations with them, then you know they will keep subscribing, or you know there's a mechanism where they can gift. And also, you know, as the business has built for my niece, they are getting sponsorship now, that they're demonstrating equipment, Oculus for example, so the new VR equipment coming through. So you know, it started just from a passion. She dropped out of school and we all thought she was crazy and didn't understand what she was talking about. And she kept talking about Twitch and we said, what on earth are you talking about? You're going to end up in McDonald's for the rest of your life. But there was a determination there to keep going and to understand and to build and learn, as Ellie has done in moving different ways in a business. So I think that's, there's lots of different platforms, but it's having the vision to go with it in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that is, it's find your clique, find your community, and like once you start having those conversations, like Ellie, you kind of extend and it becomes something. Like, I mean, for example, incubators are a fantastic resource where you actually have mentors on your doorstep. So you don't have to know your business and how to figure it out and run it straight away. There's people there who can show you how to do that, who've learned and had experience. But you can, I suppose, as you say, is give it a try. It's a learning environment and experience in itself, really, isn't it? The whole entrepreneurship world. And it doesn't, you can be your own entrepreneur. You don't have to fit or pigeonhole yourself into what you think is. You have to find what your niche is and what you're good at, and work on that, I suppose.
Something that stuck with me through the research is that young people who've maybe started a business and, you know, thought, well, you know, it's not for me necessarily, or this is not the business for me. Just the learning of that experience, of skills that they'll use throughout the rest of their life, communication and so on. I think it's thinking much more broadly, and I see a comment there about consumerism, and that's the beauty of pop culture. There is a lot of consumerism in it, but there's also that concern for building a community, and that's a more human side to business.
Yeah, and actually you can pool your resources and your ideas and work together maybe as a company. Romana, can I ask you to come and talk to me about the escape rooms with pop culture teams? Can you tell me what that's about?
Well, escape room is an excellent, well, business idea. It's an excellent, if you're a consumer, time, how to spend your time when you have a lot of time on your mind and use your brain in the same time, because you cannot get out of the room if you cannot solve some puzzles and stuff like that. So it can be themed after whatever you want. I love those kind of things, and sometimes you can spend even 2 hours if you are with a group of friends who are not that clever, and you never get out.
Like you go into a room and you create your own room, is it? So it's like you.
No. This is already created, and there are already puzzles in the room, and you're locked in. And if you want to escape the room, you need to solve the puzzles and find how to escape it.
I believe that you're into gaming yourself.
Yes, I am sure there are examples of online escape rooms.
Yeah.
Well, not online, but I remember there was in Frankfurt, I think, one online escape room just near the airport.
Okay.
And you could play it, but you really have to be clever so you don't miss your plane. So I never used it. I was so afraid.
So you really can't get out unless you figure it out. Like
yeah, you need to figure it out. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. And in Dubrovnik there was one escape room, but you know, Dubrovnik is a small city, and you need to have like more than 50,000 residents that you could run a business through all year long. So wow. I don't know how many people live in Donegal.
Sorry, how many people live where?
For example, some in Dublin, let's say.
Oh, in Dublin. Oh God, I don't know. I know how many pubs are up there. There's about 670 people. I'm not 100% sure. And I suppose, like, is there anybody else who's already in the pop culture world that's already investigating it, like, you know, or interested in it, or do you know of any other pop culture initiatives that are already running?
I don't know. Well, in the Dubrovnik, you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, because I think in Dubrovnik you have that's for the Game of Thrones, actually.
Yeah, we have those. We have those tours, Game of Thrones, on the island of Lokrum, which is a small reserve of nature. You can sit in a throne. There is a nice, yeah, there is. But in Dubrovnik, you're mixing pop culture and history of Dubrovnik, and it's quite a treat. It's very nice.
So tours seem to be quite popular across the globe, don't they? Like with the tourism and different pop culture films, etc.
I guess so. But the tourism will be dead until next year. Yeah, so we cannot put all our eggs in the same basket. So
no, definitely not.
About residents, we need to think about not just tourism. Tourism is it's always very, it's flaky. You know, just one little crisis happens, you're like, there is a little war in your neighborhood, and suddenly the tourism is gone.
It's very fickle. Does anybody else have any other contributions? Or because what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to get you thinking and get your, maybe if you want to come up with an idea, and we can just have a, I suppose, investigation of existing similar types of pop culture ideas that are out there. Because I'm sure there's a lot of experience and knowledge in the room on pop culture. I'm just seeing here. No? Okay.
Bit of tumbleweed.
Oh, you're all very shy here. There's 37 people and I have not one hand up Come on. That's okay. So what we can do is, I suppose, Myra, over the course of the day, is we can keep an eye on the chat. Maybe ideas will come to people as we progress, because we are going to show you another entrepreneur, and we're going to show you some other videos. So that might inspire you and get you thinking further. But no, really, thanks a million for your contributions. The gaming room, Romana, was very interesting. What seems to be very clear here is that they're easily replicated across destinations, depending on what your unique resources and tourism aspects are. So I'll hand over to you now, Selwyn.
That's grand. Thank you, Laura. And just to, I think to, go on a bit from what you were saying there about the tourism industry. I've noted just recently that there's a lot more interest in funding development in AR and VR for tourism. So I think that is going to be a new way of approaching tourism, that before people come to a destination, they can explore it, or if there's a particular aspect of it, they can experience that, or people who won't be able to travel in the next year or however long this lasts. And it's not just the technical side of that, it's the creative side of putting together a virtual tour. And these things need to be, there needs to be a vision there as well about the creative vision of how that goes, and again, how you connect that with an audience. So I think this is the thing about the technology as it is moving at the moment. It's moving so fast, it's becoming so much cheaper that there are new things possible now that just were far too expensive to consider. Getting into a particular business, shooting a film, for example, in days gone by could have cost you, ridiculous amounts of money, and someone young, that's not really going to be possible unless you happen to be Michael O'Leary's son or daughter.
And that's it, like, because I know the Google card, it's actually just 10 euro, I think, or 20 euro. So it's like VR card. And then as well, like you can get Samsung gear as well, like the higher end market for 200 euros. So it's, as you say, it is quite affordable. And that's a good point, especially with COVID. We're going into the virtual world more and more.
Yes, and it seems as if the tourism industry is shut down, but like everything else, the great word pivoting is just rethinking, and getting your creative brain moving.
Yeah, and that presents opportunities in itself, doesn't it? That we're actually adapting to, as you say, we're pivoting with COVID. So thank you, Myra, and thank you everyone for engaging and interacting. And we'll move on to the next section now.
Okay, well, if David could just give me some hosting abilities there to get back on the screen, and we'll set up what's going to happen next.
So you should be able to share your screen now.
No, it's still telling me I'm disabled.
Your host then.
Okie doke, yes, we're back to normality now. So, our next speakers will be Paul from Journey Free here in Northern Ireland, and Paul is going to interview Thompson from Thompson & Co. So Thompson's just starting out on his business journey as well, and his particular passion is sports and streetwear. And Thompson's from an inner city area of Belfast, which has suffered decades of economic problems. So it's a very ordinary place to come from, but there's always the opportunity of moving in different directions wherever you're coming from. So Thompson's a great example of starting slow, starting small, and starting with a simple business model. Just to, oh, come on. So Thompson is, this is his Facebook page, and this is just a quick image to show you, you know, where he's starting and what kind of business he's in. So I'm going to hand you over now to Paul and to Thompson, who are going to give us a bit of conversation and chat and experience.
Okay, are we spotlighted on screen? Can anybody? Yeah. Okay, are we both spotlighted on screen at the minute?
Just you at the minute. I can't see Thompson just at the moment.
It's going to be an interesting interview.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
The wrong button there or something.
Okay, folks. Just want to say a big hello to everybody and welcome to people in Poland and Croatia and Malta. We are just going to have a bit of a chat. Big welcome to you, Thompson.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you sharing some of your experience. I know you're just setting out into I suppose your first venture into business, so it's very brave of you to come on and share some of your experiences with us today. I guess we've been talking a lot about pop culture. What is pop culture? What is this here? And I know when I talked to you, Thompson, you were going, I'm not even sure what pop culture is. You know, it's this sort of definition that's out there. So we are trying to define that this week as well. But it doesn't have to be cartoon pinks and greens and yellows. It doesn't have to be gaming. It doesn't have to be tourism. We're going to talk today, I suppose, about clothing, and particularly sort of branded clothing, and which comes from a subculture of sport and casual football scene and all that sort of thing. So it still fits within the definition of pop culture. So big welcome to you, Thompson and Co. How would you describe your business, Thompson?
Well, as you say, I would describe my business as being inspired by the whole football casual scene. Not to be confused with that of, you know, football hooligans is what's depicted in the media. So this type of brands and stuff that I sell, likes of Stone Island, their CP company, which a lot of the football casuals would invest in and be really passionate about. At the minute, it's an online business that just sells men's clothing. I've mentioned some of the brands, but kind of my take on it is that I'm in a position to sell well below the recommended retail prices on the clothes, which is, you know, it's benefiting me and obviously the buyer. My business based in Belfast, as again was previously mentioned, and I was established there around April, May time. So just after sort of lockdown had come into place here, and which then I registered then as a limited company.
Yeah, and it's just amazing, even that you're every day in the news we're hearing that businesses are closing, and yet you were able to, I suppose, venture into setting up a new business at this time, and the challenges of COVID. I guess one of the questions are, you decided to set up as a limited company. Why did you choose that as the option for you?
For me, I felt it was the best option, as I want to keep my business sort of separated from a personal life. And I thought limited company was the best way to do that. The only other option really was to go through sole trader, but because I work full time as well, you know, I want to establish Thompson & Co as a brand in itself, you know, as well as a business. So I don't really want to be, although my name's in it, but I don't really have that affiliation.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bit of protection for you in your private life,
Mhm.
in your home life by setting up as a limited company. Yeah, and I mean, it's a whole area of research about different ways to set up your company. It's very interesting. And there might be some questions from some people listening today about that. So just in terms of you're passionate about clothing. I know that from talking to you. You could maybe sort me out. I'm feeling a wee bit underdressed here. But what is your passion? What's this passion about this type of clothing? Tell us a wee bit more about that.
So my passion kind of comes from, again, sort of being involved and watching from outside at that whole football sort of casual scene, from when I was younger, through films, through books, through documentaries, and actually going to football games, and you see all these men sort of, going to these football games, and they're all wearing the same type of clothing. And I always thought, like, I want to be like one of them type thing. But as I got older and my knowledge sort of deepened around, to say, human behavior, really, and I started to look more and more into it as to why people were wearing these brands. Why were they doing it? And what I found was it wasn't just a symbol of wealth, because some of them, my dog's barking, some of them, as I say, some of the items of clothing is really, really expensive. So I always thought he's just showing off type thing. Whereas when I looked more and more into it and actually got speaking to people, it turns out that it was like a badge. The brand itself was that of identity and belonging, because you stayed with your own wee crowd, if you know what I mean, when you were wearing it, especially when you are going to football games. And again, really, really passionate about these brands as well, is because of the quality that's actually involved in making them, and they retain their value, which, something that my dog's still barking. There's a dog walking by my door. Sorry about that. But these brands as well, they maintain their value because of the quality and the workmanship. And a lot of them as well, are involved in handmade processes, so it isn't just, cheaply made, in a factory somewhere that doesn't pay the right wages. They're actually that wee bit more expensive because they're paying real wages to people who are using their creative talents to create them, and actually design them. And so
Yeah.
again,
So there's a whole angle around style and fashion and quality clothing, but the aspect of identity and being a subculture, and being able to identify not just in your local community, but if you met somebody who was wearing that clothing from another country, it is like a brand. It's like a uniform.
it is, yeah, and it does. It brings people together, and straight away, if I see someone else wearing that brand, it's a talking point.
Yeah.
Right away, because each of these brands have their own different lanes and different different sort of materials and how it's created, and again, it creates those talking points with other people, and for a fact that, okay, that person must support a certain football team if you are in another country. So again, it is another talking point.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because there was a girl on yesterday, Ellie, that we were all watching as well, and I know you were there watching as well. But it was very much about communities of like-minded people coming together, and your interest and your expertise in that allows you to find a way to create your business out of it. So there's a common thread there in what both of you were talking about. So I mean, just the journey from being interested in this to the actual action, taking the step to turn it into a business. Can you tell us how that happened? Or
Yeah, so this is where it turns a wee bit interesting. So I've always been interested in starting my own business. Like, I've always had different business ideas, and I'm someone that would call myself a wee bit very creative in coming up with those ideas. I've always, as I say, I've always been interested in this line of clothing and the subculture, that surrounds it. And basically, a few years ago, I did look into it, and I did look into having my own business, obviously selling these items of clothing, and stocking these brands that can be quite difficult to get, to be honest. Whereas I was just kept being met with negative replies, and you know, the industry itself is so competitive and people don't want to be telling you, you know, where they got help or where they, you know, have their distributors and their names and their contact numbers. So it's a wee bit, say, get you a wee bit down, you know, when you kept being met with no answers and no one really wants to help you. So for a while it was at the back of my mind. But while it was at the back of my mind, it was always in my mind, you know, something that I always thought about. There was an opportunity one day. I'm in a lot of different sort of groups on social media that people talk about, you know, those items of clothing and try and sell as well. Whereas I stumbled across a Facebook post where there was a seller in England, in Blackburn actually, where he was offering to genuine interested parties, you know, he had some available wholesale stock, you know, that he was wanting to get rid of. So took a wee bit of courage, a wee bit of debating inside my own head as to whether I should give him a call. You know, am I doing the right thing here? Because it is a risk, you know, and it's a big risk, you know, if you're talking, you know, trying to find the money and stuff as well. And, you know, can you trust this person to transfer the money? Is he actually going to send you the goods? Is he just going to take the money and run? So I decided to give him a ring, you know, and I had my pitch and stuff set up. First time ever doing something like this here. I felt like, you know, a real businessman, you know. So I gave him a pitch and all, told him a wee bit about me and stuff like that there. And he was saying, you know, how much are you looking to buy? Here's me, you know, I haven't got £2 in my name here. Like, what am I going to say? So I had to just make up a figure in my head, you know, and something that I thought that he would like. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'll get the money later. I'll find it from somewhere type thing. Or maybe just not phone him again, you know, put it at the back of my mind. So I give him a figure, which was a few thousand, which happy enough, he was like, yep, no problem. That sounds good. I'll start sending you over some pictures of the stock and all this here. No problem, mate. Cheers. Thank you. All the best. Hung up. He starts sending over the stock list and he starts telling me the prices. Where that was my real first insight as the, you know, the markups in terms of, you know, what they are actually buying at and what they're selling for. To be fair, he was probably getting it cheaper elsewhere and putting a wee bit extra onto himself, but, you know, there was still a profit to be made there.
That's business.
So I had a look at it and I was like, right, I have my opportunity here. I've always talked about it, you know, and I talked to people around me who were close to me and, you know, debated the idea again in my head. Do I take the risk, you know, or do I just move on? So I decided to take the risk. And I had a car there and I was like, should I sell my car to buy this stock? And I was thinking, you know what, it's lockdown. I can't really go anywhere. So, and if I ever need a car again, I'll go and get one. So I sold the car and I got a couple of pounds for the car and decided to then buy some stock off him. Lucky enough, the stock arrived, you know, intact. It arrived how he said it would. So he didn't rip me off, which is a good thing. So now I was facing I had all this stock and I was like, oh no, what do I do with this? You know, how am I going to sell this? I don't have a shop. You know, I didn't want to get a shop. I didn't want to get a physical location because obviously, you know, I had to raise deposits and stuff for the rent of the shop and it was a massive outlay. So then I created my Facebook pages, as you've seen, and Instagram. Yeah. Started selling through those places. Had a wee bit of learning in terms of started selling on the likes of Depop, you know, which is obviously a third party selling. And then PayPal as well, set up a PayPal, set up an eBay account, set up an Amazon account. Didn't realize, obviously, you know, the Depop and PayPal obviously took fees out of everything that you sell as well, you know, so that was a lesson learned there too. But yeah, after making that connection, I actually built up a lot of confidence in myself, you know, phoning that guy in England and getting that supply in, where I started to make contacts with others, you know, with others in the industry. I used to get knocked back all the time, but something just seemed to click and I seemed to get a lot more confidence in myself in terms of what I was talking about whenever I phoned these people. So I actually found another supplier based in the Netherlands, who again actually shipped some stock to me as well. But, you know, I had to find out about how do I actually transfer money internationally and all this here, which again was another learning curve. And again, you're trusting someone as you send that money. Are they going to send this stock? You know, so, and I'm not really in a position where, you know, I can really raise, you know, queries or go to the bank and say, here, they've ripped me off type thing, you know, because I am a small business, like very, very small, you know, I'm the only employee.
I
So
think
again, I took the risk. It paid off. Again, the stock array, but it's always a confidence building. It's always confidence. And I managed to find another supplier in Italy as well now. So I have who I've had built a good relationship with.
it's amazing just listening to the journey there, and I think that's what's
I'm in a meeting, yeah?
has somebody got their sound on there? I think what's fascinating about your journey is, you know, that I mean, you said there that you felt like a real businessman at one stage. You know, it's this when the light switches on that you take the steps, you take the risks. I mean, and you're still learning, obviously, day by day. But at what point do you actually become a real businessman? You know, in this journey, you know.
Yeah, I suppose that's everyone's own personal preference there, would you say? You know, in my head, I have a vision in my head, which I'm sure you'll ask me about, but and we'll get to that.
But I think when you take that, it sounds like from your story, when you take that first step and you decide, I mean, and you commit to it, you sold your car, you took the action, and things have sort of flowed on from that.
They have, and to be honest with you, I've been lucky, and it hasn't been all smooth sailing. You know, I'm talking about that. Obviously, I took the risk and it worked out. But you know, some days when I look around me, and my room here at the minute is filled with stock at the minute. They are selling, but again, you're trying to get your name out there and you're trying to promote yourself, and you have a look around you some days and you think, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
Type thing, you know. But you have to just keep going, you know, and you know, keep saying to yourself, I can do this, I can make it. You know, I've got this far, you know, I can keep pushing myself.
Yeah, it definitely sounds encouraging. I'm sure that there's people listening to your story here today who have maybe an idea in their minds, and they're fearful about taking that step. So there's a lot of stuff, and hopefully they're thinking about some questions that they could ask you in the panel in a wee while. Can I just ask you about a couple of the online things, because you mentioned a thing called Depop. Now, I've 2 young daughters, so I know what it is because there's something arrives every 2 days from Depop in my house. But can you tell us a wee bit more about what Depop is?
I'll just add there, Paul, I haven't bought anything off me for yourself yet, so
For Christmas, no?
just put that out there. You know, I have plenty of big sizes for you here.
Thank you.
So yeah, Depop is, you know, an online selling platform. Would kind of put you in the mind of sort of like an eBay model, but you actually have your own page on it where your items are all listed, kind of like your own wee website.
Okay.
In a way, where people can interact with you as well and send you messages, and maybe, you know, sometimes you get people offering you, you know, a price that's maybe under what you bought it for type thing. But you can sell, I know Depop is mostly clothes, but I know you can sell practically anything for it or on it. But again, just be aware of, you know, the hidden sort of fees on Depop, which again is a learning curve. You know, I've been caught out a couple of times. You know, I think Depop take like 10%, and that money will go straight to your PayPal account then, you know, and not another like 3% onto that. So, you know, you learn to set your prices as well, you know, from that.
Yeah, and that's something that comes through experience, I suppose, and learning by mistakes.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I'm just conscious of time here, because we could talk for another 15-20 minutes. Is there any just key bits of advice that you would give to anybody who's thinking about setting up their business? And I suppose even, you know, you set this up alongside you work as well.
Yeah.
I know you're full-time working, so this is a business you've set up alongside. But with that in mind, is there any advice or warnings that you would give to people who are considering setting up?
Advice is take the risk. You know, if you believe in yourself enough, and you know, you trust yourself and you're disciplined enough that you're going to be able to set up late, you know, and you're going to be able to keep pushing sales, and you're going to be able to keep publishing on social media. Social media has been absolutely massive It has. What I really recommend with social media is to run a couple of competitions if you're going to do it, because
Right.
if somebody isn't interested in what you have to sell, there's always a chance of them winning something, which grabs a lot of attention. Especially if they're going to like your post and tag friends and invite them to your page or whatever you have set up. Again, it's going back to just taking that risk and taking that step, to push yourself, instead of talking about it all the time, which I did, and I have seen plenty of my business ideas sort of, go out, I just forget about them. Next thing I read in the paper that someone else has done it and, they're making a success out of it. And, you kick yourself, you say, oh no, I've done it again type thing. But again, just if you are confident enough and you believe in yourself enough, and which I'm sure everyone does, take the risk, and it's, at the minute it is hard and it's difficult to think around COVID, obviously it plays a big part, and the decisions that we make, people are obviously thinking, if people have enough money to actually buy your products, but to me, it's actually a good place to start now. And, especially if you're just going to work on getting your name out there and getting your, the brand exposure.
Yeah.
Which to be honest with you, again, go for it. Do you know what I mean? Go for it. If it doesn't work, start again. What's the worst can happen?
Yeah.
I might be,
So
loaded with a load of clothes here that I can't sell, but listen, they'll go someday. What's the worst? I'll get my money back at least.
Definitely. I've only a couple more questions. I like what you bring up about competitions. And even this week, there's a competition on here for €100, for somebody to put forward an idea at the end of the week. So it is something that can really draw business to your sites and get people interested. So a couple of short questions, and then we're going to hand back. But what is your future vision? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see Thompson & Co. in 3 years' time, say?
I want to be lying on a sunbed in Ibiza when the website works away and all these clothes get sold. But no, so my thing is obviously to grow my business into a website or an actual brand in itself that people know that is genuine, because especially in this market as well, there is a lot of counterfeits and copies of the clothes that get made as well. And you're trying to put out there that you are legit, you are a genuine seller. That your clothes are legit as well. I obviously want to establish a couple of different connections throughout Europe, especially. I have plans to go to Italy in the new year and try and make those connections as well. Again, so that's all around the confidence building from just picking up the phone to phone somebody. I'm actually planning on visiting Italy, to find suppliers here, if I'm allowed, of course. I also want to be in a position where I'm actually able to give back to my community as well. So the community I live, I know it was previously mentioned there, have been a big support in terms of friends and family coming to support me and buy off me as well at the very start. So I want to be able to give back to the community as best I can too.
That's brilliant, Thompson. I mean that was my last question to you before we hand back, or maybe take a few questions. Is I know you have an interest in youth work and your community, and I suppose Epic is about entrepreneurship and youth work, and work with young people connecting together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that there's potential for this that's not being met, or what's your view about entrepreneurship, and where does it sit with youth work, and any advice maybe to youth workers out there about how they should connect with entrepreneurship?
I think obviously youth work needs to maybe take that step forward, and look at entrepreneurship, as a way of developing young people. To be honest, entrepreneurship brings in so many skills. Okay, something mightn't work, but the skills that that is brought in around entrepreneurship is so transferable into other careers. And I think the way the world is sort of changing as well. I think people are going to need to be aware of being self-employed or having limited companies in future. Especially the way employers are wanting to work things now. Again, but their business might succeed. That's the thing. And if you're sitting there as a young person and you're thinking, I have this great idea, but I don't know where to look to or where to go, and I couldn't do that, and they don't have the confidence to approach, organizations that are out there that are in place to help. You might think, oh, they're only for big players in the industry type thing, but again, it might succeed and it might work. And they just need that wee boost of confidence in terms of, and that guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree totally. I think maybe we as youth workers need to switch on to the potential of it a lot more and be more confident in a pathway through entrepreneurship. And I think the resources of EPIC are brilliant for passing that on to youth workers and youth work organisations. So hopefully that will come out of this.
Yeah.
Thompson, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's a story in progress, and I can't wait to see how it moves on. And I wish you all the best with it. And I'm sure you've inspired some people here today, maybe to take that step, and that it is possible if you believe in yourself and take that risk. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Moira, are we going to take questions now, or do you want to wait to the panel? Or
I think, Paul, that maybe we'll wait to the panel. It might give people a wee bit of a chance to absorb what Thompson has said, which I have to say I found absolutely fascinating. And I would also say, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, I wouldn't look at Thompson and immediately think he was a fashion geek. That's a revelation. Thanks very much. I need to be a bit more flexible in my thinking, obviously. I think maybe if we can take later on, Thompson, some just observations or questions that people might put in the meantime. And in the meantime, we'll have a few videos from Roman, and allow people just to pause as well for a bit of thought. Okay.
Yep, not a problem.
All right, so we'll speak in a little bit. Don't go anywhere, Thompson.
I want to know what your perception is of me, though.
I'm
first see me,
Well,
let's open this up here.
maybe that's for another day. But I notice in the chat that there are some comments already about just observations of you, how you come across in your journey, and it's such a real experience, I think, and the aspects of confidence or lack of confidence, I think is so important. And the fact that you've moved in a very short time from thinking, well, I'm just maybe not going to do it, to thinking, oh right, look, listen, what odds? Let's sell the car and hopefully get your car back again at some stage in the future.
Yep, 100%.
All right, we'll speak shortly and we'll move on to Roman now. And Roman is going to give us a few short bite-sized videos. And Roman, I'm not sure if we could if there's one that we could maybe jump through rather than doing all of the videos. Is that possible, just to catch up on time a wee bit?
Yep, for sure. How much time do we have?
Well, you'd have 20 minutes now.
All right, so yeah, we can go through the first 4 videos and we can skip the last one, basically.
That's perfect, yes, because again, though these will all be available, we'll make these videos available to people, so don't worry about missing anything. It'll all be coming your way. So go on ahead there and start your presentation, Roman.
All righty. So just to give you a bit of my background, I have several years experience in marketing, and I've also worked for some years in online gaming. So the videos will be basically giving a brief overview about kind of pitching your idea to a specific audience and some tips on how to do that best. So I will try to share the screen now. I think you need to allow me to share the screen.
I think you've got hosting now, Roman.
Yeah.
We're not getting any sound, Roman.
I think you just need to take your earphones out of your laptop. I think that'll help.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Oh, do you need to take your mute off, Roman?
Can you hear it now? Were you able to hear it? No?
No, we can hear you, but nothing from the video at the minute.
Roman, try to go back before sharing. So stop sharing. And then when you are going to share, there are 2 tick boxes at the bottom and see that you have ticked them. So get out of this screen and go back.
Yeah, let me try again. 1 second.
There should be 2 tick boxes down about the video and the sound.
What's that, pardon?
When you want to share your screen, there should be like 2 tick boxes telling you to share the video and the sound.
Let me check. Yeah, it should be working now. Let's try.
We're going to talk about some tips and tricks
Yep.
about communicating your business idea. So first and foremost, when it comes to explaining what your business is about or communicating your idea or pitching it, is to provide a quick and brief summary of what your business is all about. So whether you're pitching your idea to investors, you're speaking to a board of directors, you're presenting it at school or to your family or friends, the approach is always going to be very similar. First and foremost, you want to focus on the key topics about your business. So you're going to begin with the idea. So you're going to describe what your business idea is. This can involve explaining your product or your services that you're offering. So basically what it is that you're selling. Why is this needed? And you're going to speak about the market. So is there a demand for this product? Is this something that is actually needed? Of course, these claims need to be backed up by data or by research. You may collect this data yourself. You can use secondary resources. There's plenty of information that can help you build a business case. Of course, you cannot just base it on your assumptions. You need some kind of numbers to prove this. The other thing which tends to help in explaining what your business is about or what idea you have is providing a backstory to it. So some sort of a background. How did you come up with this idea? Why do you think this business is relevant? Is this something that is personally connected to you? Do you have some kind of an experience in the industry perhaps? Is this relevant to your background, maybe your hobbies, your interests? Maybe your friends were interested in whatever product or service you might be offering. So you should try to build some kind of a narrative around your business or the idea that you're communicating. Another thing that is quite important is logistics of your business. So how is this all going to work? Is your business going to be online? Is it going to be a brick and mortar store? If it's going to be one or the other, what limitations do you have or what advantages you may have? So for example, setting up an online business can be fairly easy. You don't need as much investment, but you need to think about other things like how are customers going to find your store? How are they going to use it? How is the checkout going to work? The same applies to a brick and mortar store. You might need more investment, but maybe it will be easier to find. Maybe it will be more difficult. Maybe you will have a more niche audience. So you can address all these topics inside your brief summary about your business. One very important thing is for you to also believe in your idea. So you need to be convinced yourself that your idea is going to work. Of course, as we mentioned, this cannot be based only on assumptions, but it should be backed by data, by research, by some experience or knowledge that you have. So in short, you need to describe the idea, what it is you're selling, what product or service, and why you're selling it. So is there a need that you're meeting with your product or with your service? This always needs to be relevant to the market, that is your audience, who it is that you're selling to, and needs to be backed by data or research that can help you make your assumptions into reality. Of course, you need to be believing into your own business, into your story, and into the industry that you're trying to enter. This list by no means is exhaustive, but this helps you to have a brief summary, a brief kind of executive summary, if you will, that helps you address your, whether it's investors, board of directors, maybe your friends. Following these points, you have a good introduction, a good summary of what your business is all about, what idea it is you're presenting, and how it is relevant.
So I'll just move on to the next video right away.
We're going to talk about profitability and monetization. So what does this mean? We're basically, what we're saying is that a business needs to be profitable. It needs to be bringing in revenue. It needs to be bringing in money. It needs to be bringing dividends on the investment that has been made. If your business is not doing this, of course, it's not going to last very long. So, some important points that we need to mention at this stage is how you're going to actually monetize your business. How are you going to bring in revenue? So, if you're writing a blog about something related to popular culture, how are you going to monetize it? Is it going to be through advertising? Is it going to be through affiliate sales, perhaps? Is it going to be selling some kind of subscriptions? So these things need to be addressed, and you need to provide a good overview of how you're planning to bring in revenues for your business. Besides this, you can also consider financing. So how much investment do you actually need to get your business started? Is this something that is very investment heavy? So does it require a lot of capital upfront? Or is this something that is very easy and quick to start up? And perhaps you would require some financing for growth or for marketing or for expansion into new territories. So these are the elements that need to be addressed when you're talking about financing. Next up is market demand. So is the market big enough for you to be profitable? Are there a lot of other competitors, other players in the same industry or in a similar business that might be attracting the same kinds of customers? You need to consider that customers do not have limitless amounts of money. So you need to be able to prove that your business will be actually attracting these customers and will be able to monetize them. So, of course, you need to keep in mind the competition. You need to keep in mind what we mentioned earlier, the logistics. You need to keep in mind how you're going to brand your business, because all of this ultimately leads into how profitable your business is going to be. And profitability is measured very simply. It is the input versus the output. So how much cash you're actually putting into your business and how much you're managing to get back out of it. So let's say if you're starting a website, the upfront costs are fairly low. If you're starting a distribution business, so you're delivering a lot of products, of course the costs are going to be much higher. If you're thinking about building a platform yourself or with the help of your colleagues, of course, investments will be somewhat different to other scenarios. So these things need to be put up front so that you can understand and present how much your business is actually going to be worth. So how much is going to be invested, how much of that is going to be turned into revenue, and how much of that revenue is going to be turned into profit. Ultimately, your revenue needs to cover your costs, and the remainder, so that is the difference between the revenues and the costs of your business, that will be your profit. At the same stage, what you can do is mention what you intend to do with these profits. So are part of these profits going to be going into developing your business further? Are they going to go into other business ventures? Are they going to go into some complementary businesses? These things need to be, of course, addressed and thought about. This is something that forms part of your business plan, but monetization and profitability is one of the most important topics that you want to speak about when you're presenting your idea to, let's say, investors. We're going to talk about the presentation of your idea. So how you're actually going to present this idea to your audience. When we're speaking about the audience, of course, we're referring to the people you will be presenting to. So like we mentioned earlier, board of directors, investors, family, friends, whoever it is that is going to hear about your idea. So first and foremost, we need to decide, or rather we need to establish what your audience wants to hear. So different people would have different needs. If we're talking about investors, of course, they would be more interested about financials. If we're talking about family, perhaps they would be interested more in the sentimental part of your business, so how you came up with it. So you need to be certain about who your audience is and how best to address them. Next up is packaging your idea. That is, how are we going to present it? As mentioned before, you need to have sort of an executive summary. You need to be certain about the monetization of your business. You need to know your market. And all these things need to be very concise and very straight to the point. So you might have a lot of details and a lot of content that you want to speak about. However, it is best to keep it as short as possible and allow people to ask questions to ask questions to you about your business idea. So when it comes to questions, this is of course another very important topic. You need to be very knowledgeable about your business, about your market, about the macroeconomic environment, about the needs that you're addressing. So for example, an investor might ask you, how big is the market? Of course, you should be able to estimate the market if you don't know it already. You need to be able to think about potential competition or the competition that exists right now. You need to think about potential pitfalls or weaknesses that your business have, because all these questions might and very likely will be asked by investors, for example. You need to also be able to respond to questions from other groups of people. They will have different interests. They might have some negative feedback or criticisms, and you need to be able to take it up, provide or substantiate with data or with research what it is you're talking about, and accept the criticisms that are being given to you, and improve your business idea for the next presentation or the business in general. What else is important is the media that you're going to use. So when we're talking about media, we're talking about how you're going to present the business idea. Is it going to be with a maybe PowerPoint presentation? Is it going to be using a video? Is it going to be using images? If your business is live already and perhaps it's online, Maybe you can have a showcase of your website. You could, of course, use graphs if they're relevant. You can reference your research. You can reference your existing data. You can reference competitors, for example. So it's up to you and up to the business to decide what kind of media you're going to use. If it's something more visual, of course, the more visual the media is, the more exciting it is going to be. If it is something product related, so you're selling products, it would be ideal to have a sample. So this allows your audience to realize, okay, this is a product that can be manufactured, this is how it looks, they're able to touch it, they're able to interact with it, and it gives them a much better understanding of what your business is and what it stands for. So to wrap it up, presentation of your idea is very important, and it depends on the audience that you're presenting to.
Okay, Roman, that's about time up there if you want to wind up.
So there's only a couple of other
next topic you would like to address?
There's actually only a couple of other videos, one which is quite short and another one summarizing the template, which will be shared later on in the week. So yeah, if there are any questions about this, it's pretty short. I guess it's quite straight to the point, and of course these things are affected very much by the case that you have in front of you, by your business, and obviously by the people you're presenting to. Yeah, if there are any questions, I'm happy to respond.
We'll take some questions later on, Roman. I'd ask anybody to put any questions in the chat, and I'd see that Antoine has posted the links there to the presentations on YouTube for anybody who wants to go into YouTube and have a look. So again, as with Thompson, we'll be moving into a panel discussion at the end, and we take any questions, okay?
Super. Thank you.
Okay, so that's that screen back to me. Not yet. Could you hand the hosting over to me, David?
I'll sit back to you now.
Thank you. So that was very interesting. Thank you, Roman. And as I say, you'll be one of the panel members. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, 10 minutes, and then we'll to give people a chance to get a cup of coffee or to have a wee think, or just, you know, put some questions down. And we'll come back after the 10 minutes, and we will start into questions and discussions and just any comments you want to make or observations for the panel. Okay, so if we come back then at 2:45 for the final session. Okay, we're going to start back again to our panel. So we're going to ask Paul and Thompson and Laura and Roman now to rejoin us and put their cameras and microphones on. And if there are any questions or observations that people would like to make to any of the panel, please put them into the chat box now, please.
Well, I have a question for Thompson. So Thompson, I'm just wondering, how did you know who your target market was? Like, was there, did you build a persona, or were you building a target market based on yourself, like what you couldn't find? Because you mentioned that you couldn't find merchandise or clothing that you specifically wanted.
Yeah, probably based on myself more, to be honest. Especially in terms of me trying to find, you know, these types of brands and the clothes that I wear, you know, and it can be quite difficult, and it can be quite difficult to find sort of new and in season stock, especially people who don't want to pay obviously the retail price for it as well. So there is sort of a market on the likes of social media and stuff like that, or it was already in existence, but I was able to then tap into that, you know, and actually get onto these Facebook groups that were already established and sell on them as well. But again, probably on my own sort of my own findings that shaped it, you know.
Yeah, because you probably had a group of friends probably interested in similar trends as well, I suppose. Like that's the thing, is there's huge potential in niche markets, and they're willing to pay that little bit higher as well, as you say, to get the quality item and to get exactly what they want, rather than just, you know, people are willing to spend, I suppose, more and invest more in an item of clothing for quality rather than quantity.
Yeah, especially where I am too, you know, and as you just said it, you know, we hit the nail on the head around, you know, people who, you know, I personally am friends with and all, they would all wear the same sort of brands and that. And in terms of, they would have to go online, you know, and have it ordered in from across the water mostly, and you're waiting for that delivery period of around, you know, 3 to 5 working days, you know, for it to arrive. Whereas I'm in a position to actually, you know, put it in my car and drive to that person's house, or they can come to me, you know, so they're getting it there in that day, which is what people want, really, you know. People want now, you know.
Yeah.
And I was able to tap into that as well.
It kind of evolved though, from your story. It really evolved. Like, you kind of just let it be what it was going to be, you know. You kind of where you saw potential, you dug into it and you kind of investigated it, and then you had conversations, and then it seems to be, to me anyway, that's how it happened, how your journey progressed.
Definitely, and it started well before I actually started the business. You know, that's when my journey started, around, you know, being involved in that sort of community years and years ago, and always having an interest and always kind of looking in from the outside, you know, at how people were doing this and how people were doing that, and, you know, different sort of techniques that they were using to sell as well. But again, it just happened that not that long ago an opportunity came up and I took it. But yeah, you're 100% right. You know, I've been looking at it for a long time, you know, and I was probably able, what's, to be honest with you, it's built up my experience in terms of not actually having the business, but built up my confidence enough to actually feel that I could run the business.
Okay, we've got a raised hand from Maya. Maya, do you want to ask a question?
You can put on your video, people, if you want to. This is an open floor. We can see each other then, if you feel comfortable.
Go ahead, Maya. Go ahead.
All right. I have a question for Thompson, because you were mentioning that you had to network and find suppliers, right? Can you sort of, I don't know, give a bit of a breakdown on how you network and how you sort out the good suppliers from the bad suppliers?
Yeah.
Especially since they're international, you cannot see the product, you know, you really have to trust that based online.
Yeah, trust is massive. Trust is really, really important. So what I did, I just started, basically a lot of my emails were maybe going into people's junk folders, to be honest with you, and just randomly messaging all these different sellers and asking for advice and asking, maybe could they give me a discount on products that they have. Probably again, not I wasn't getting it at wholesale price, but maybe about 20-30% off. And I was so then that built up a relationship there, where they could actually trust me that I was transferring the money and that I was serious. And those relationships built up where they were actually able to pinpoint me in different directions as well. I also joined a couple of websites. One is called eSources and one is called Wholesale Deals, where you're able to actually type in what you want, type in what you're looking for, and they email you back with a list of different suppliers, which was really, really helpful. That's where I've actually got in touch with my supplier at the minute in Italy. So they're in Turin. So they were able to pinpoint me in their direction. But again, I was just messaging people constantly, and probably getting it on. A lot of people were probably annoyed at me too, to be honest. But it's just a way of putting your name out there and showing that you are, genuine, you are serious. But again, do your background research. Sort of Google reviews are really important as well. Whenever you do find a seller, do your research and go online and type their name into Google, and you'll see a thing called Trustpilot. It's called here. Where they'll maybe have a 5-star rating, and you'll see people's reviews. I ordered this and it came in such and such a time. So do your research, and yeah, I would really highly recommend those websites. They have like a forum as well, where you can type in what you're looking for, and you'll see other people who are maybe looking for the same thing, and you'll see suppliers getting back to them. And so you just click on that profile and send them an email or something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have Aoife has asked a question. Aoife, do you want to put that question to Thompson yourself, or would you like me to read it out?
Hi Thompson, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I work with a lot of young people here in County Roscommon, and what I was wondering really was, what was the hardest thing you found to overcome? Because I'm trying to help young people to build their confidence and to try and help them to overcome their challenges, but particularly the perceived challenges. For they think there's a lot of challenges there that in hindsight actually isn't, but they're just putting up them barriers themselves because I suppose don't have the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I know what you're saying, because I've done it myself. I've experienced it. I've been in that position where, you constantly put yourself down, and you constantly put yourself off actually taking that leap. And at times you're your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
At times, probably for me, whenever I had that sort of, I know I said earlier that I'm always someone who has, different ideas and different business ideas. And it came to a point where people were actually turning around and saying to me, you're all talk type thing, and probably a wee bit of reverse psychology in that, to be honest, which actually made me a wee bit more determined to actually go out and do it, and again, built up that confidence that way, where I wanted to prove sort of maybe people wrong and show them that I could do it. And I'd include myself in that as well. I think that's something that I could have maybe done that built my confidence.
Can I come in while you're thinking, Thompson, as well on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the risk, fear, confidence, those words were really big in what you were talking about. And there's this, I agree completely with Aoife, from working with young people, there's this barrier that seems to be just unbreakable, especially when you're not confident, you haven't got maybe a good education, you haven't people around you telling you that you can do it all the time, so this wall becomes massive. And what I love about your business, Thompson, it says to me, it's possible. It is possible. And I don't mean, I know it takes time, but literally within a week, if you've got the passion and the right contacts and the social media, ability, or somebody connecting you with those things, you can have the start of a business very, very quickly. in the current age of social technologies and stuff like that. And especially if you've got a team of youth workers or organizations who believe in you and have the resources to do that, I think this is where Epic comes into its own, you know. But your business, I loved it. I love the fact that you came on. And I think what you bring to this conference this week is you make it seem possible. And I think that is pure magic. I think that's where it is. That's the key to Epic, is it is possible. It takes a step and takes some determination, but you can do it, you know. And it doesn't have to be a massive big business that you're setting up. This can happen in your own home with some stock and a social media site, you know. It's possible. So I appreciate that a bit. Sorry for hopefully give you some time to think there.
Oh, here, 100%. No, but I agree. I think just go off, Paul, what you said there, this is amazing. You know, when Paul told me about Epic and all and what it was about, and there's going to be people from all over Europe and all, you know, I wish, to be honest with you, I was involved in something like that, you know, before I started and had a wee bit more knowledge, because honestly, I think this is class, like, so you know, it's really, really what you're doing is amazing. And, you know, in terms of that, I spoke about it, making those connections elsewhere, you know, it's really, really important, especially in an age where, you know, globalization is big business now, you know, and you're making contacts from all over, and you have to, you know, if you want to progress and you want to develop, you know, you have to make connections with other people. And I think one of the things that, you know, built my confidence as well, just kind of what Aoife was saying, was I would look at, you know, good news stories all the time around people who have made the leap, you know, and started their own businesses, and it always inspired me, you know, and it always really, you know, I would listen to people, you know, speaking about business and making that sacrifice as well. I thought about it too. And so I think really hearing from, you know, real life experiences, you know, is really, really important, especially young people who are maybe thinking it and don't have the confidence, you know, to take that step. I would love it if I had a chance to actually speak to some of the people I was listening to, you know, in person, and get an opportunity to ask them questions, which is what's happening here. I think I probably would have started a lot sooner, to be honest.
Like a role
would have
model.
been a long conversation.
Yep.
Can I add, Aoife, can you hear me okay, Aoife? Yeah?
Yeah, I can.
Does that make sense in the work that you're doing? Is there...
Very much so. I think the fact that building your own network of contacts is a big thing, and being able to put, when they see somebody like your Thompson that's relatable, that can go out and do it and do so much in such a short period of time. Like, we're only in the pandemic a couple of months and you've grown a business. Like, to be able to show that to young people is a big thing, because a lot of the time in their minds, I think they have to be, you know, in their 50s to be able to build a business, and they need years to do it. Whereas if you have the right platform, it only takes so much. And just, I suppose, have the people around you, as you were saying, Paul, makes a big difference when there is youth workers there to encourage people that mightn't have the family that to encourage them, makes it a little bit easier for people.
Yeah.
I think one important thing to add here is the fear of failure, which is a very large obstacle for a lot of people. That is something that needs to be addressed. So basically, whoever is trying to start a business should not be afraid to fail, because that is actually a very real possibility. In fact, the majority of people starting a business, they will eventually fail. Those that do not are the lucky few. But it's overcoming this fear of failure and actually trying again is what is ultimately going to lead to success.
I completely agree, Roma, and I do think that the failure gives them that bit more encouragement, that if they fail and they can stand back up again and do it, it really does build their prospects within, and I suppose build their determination to keep going.
Exactly.
Maya, did you want to come back in again and say something?
Yeah, I very much agree with the points that you're making now. However, again, maybe this is just my personal experience through what I consume on social media and my echo chamber. I don't know how well known you guys follow TikTok, possibly. But the people that I'm following and what is coming up on my page on TikTok, I think it's really encouraged a lot of young people to sort of chase this kind of start your own business kinds of dreams. And I've seen so many startup companies run by young people, like most of them creating jewelry, selling, you know, repurposed clothes. I think that since they created such a safe space where it's a sort of space of encouragement to do these kinds of things, as opposed to fear of scrutiny from your peers, that's like a whole different bag of beans. Because I think I've met a lot of people my age that don't want to put themselves out there in fear of, oh, because, you know, I'll be awkward or people will make fun of me, kind of a thing. So it's not only, I think, just a matter of fear of failure, it's just a fear of, you know, scrutiny from peers. And if you give that sort of safe space for them where it's encouraged to experiment, it's a whole different thing. Like,
I completely agree with you. You know, I know in Northern Ireland, there's a culture of if somebody puts their head up and takes a step out, the first thing that happens is humor is brought in and jokes and ridicule, you know, ridicule and it depends, you know, there's a nasty side of it and a cruel side of it, but there's also a cultural side in our country where, you know, it's part of sort of how people engage with each other, but it's a false thing because deep down people are looking, going, I respect, I admire, and I wish I could be like, you know, all these sort of things. So I suppose it's an important lesson as youth workers or trainers or supporters of young people that we prepare young people for the responses, which can be critical.
I completely agree with you, Paul. I mean, we have a name for it in this country, and it's called begrudgery. So it's very much about pulling people down because of your own insecurities. But that's not very helpful to the person who's being pulled down, who cannot see the basis of it. And there's a comment there from Romana and from Antoine, and it's about having a background encouragement that failure is not the end of things, and that there's a business process. Fail quickly. Make sure that the risks you're taking are not so large that the failure is going to hit you. Thompson talked about he gauged his risk at an early stage, what kind of financial risk and what risk he was prepared to take that wouldn't totally impact his life. So, you know, there's a lot of fancy business terms for these processes, but they're quite ordinary processes in effect. One of the fancy terms is minimal viable product. And what that means is you're failing early, you're failing quickly if you're going to fail, and you haven't invested so much in it that you've got no will or means to go on again and learn and grow. So I think there's an awful lot that we're pulling out of what Thompson's saying. And there's one thing, there's sort of two related questions I'd ask you, Thompson, and is there a piece of support that you got that was particularly important to you, or the converse, is there something that was missing there that would have been particularly important to you to support you when you were starting?
Maybe if somebody gave me a few quid would have helped, some money, but no, to be honest with you, no, I didn't really get any support or any help in starting up. Again, everything was done around my own research, to be fair. Probably going back over time, you know, when I have looked in to start my own business, you know, before, and, you know, I actually gathered all that knowledge then. But when this opportunity came up, it was basically, to be honest with you, it was like a day I seen it on Facebook, the next day I was on the phone to the guy ordering stock. So it just happened so quick. And I talked about earlier, you know, taking those opportunities and, you know, don't let them pass you by. But that was something that I just took upon myself to do. So there probably wasn't even any time for me to get involved with any sort of external organizations that could have helped, you know. Probably what I would recommend is do a business plan or get help with it, to be honest. I done my business plan after the business was already created. So then I had to look, as you said, at the financial risks and stuff like that too. After I had all this stock coming in, you know, my first order. But definitely, you know, look at your business plan and look at the financial aspect of things. And seek help. To be honest with you, take as much help as possible. You know, as I said earlier, this is amazing. You know what you're doing here, and I really believe, as Paul said, around, you know, youth work and entrepreneurship, and you know, both of them can bounce off each other, to be honest.
Can I just ask you there, you've said that you were thinking about it for a long time. At what stage in your life, I mean, what age were you when you started thinking about this?
Probably in my 19, 20, to be honest. I'm 32 next week, so over 10 years to actually, you know, sort of build up that confidence. But it really helps when you're in a position, you know, okay, I work full time as well. So I'm in a position where I'm a wee bit lucky in terms of I'm settled, you know, and I'm settled into a job that I love doing, you know, in youth work. So that I was able to focus on the business as well. I'm a part-time. But through those early years, especially growing up, you know, in inner city sort of Belfast, you know, you go through on all these different, you know, paths in life, to be honest, and you're in and out of jobs, and you're going down, you know, bad routes, if you know what I'm saying. And you know, it's really difficult to get into a career, you know, in love. And I found youth work kind of late as well. So again, it really helps to be settled. And but to be honest with you, if I think it'd be really, I don't think I could have done it years ago when I was that age. Whenever I thought about it, I don't think I could have done it. I wouldn't have stuck it, because you've got so much other things going on, you know. And again, you've taken all these different directions in life, and you're trying to find yourself as well, you know. So, and everyone's different. You know, everyone goes through different stages in life, and other people have started businesses when they're young and been really successful, you know. And I started a business at my age now. Hopefully I'm just as successful, or, you know, I'll take any sort of success at all with it. But again, you know, I don't think there's any sort of right or wrong time.
Okay. Any sorry?
Yeah, hello, I have a question.
Go
So,
ahead.
well, was there something like, I mean, there are many parts in your work, as in administration, marketing, or storehouse, storage. So is there a part you would say like there was more work than I expected, or less work than I expected?
Yeah, probably more work in terms of social media. You think you know everything about social media because you use it every day, you know, and you're using it for yourself and your own purpose. Whereas whenever you have a business and you're trying to sell, especially on social media, all these other factors come into play, you know, looking at how you create stories and how you create content that's going to actually engage, you know, with your followers, how you're going to take your pictures. Have you somewhere to take pictures, you know, of your stock or whatever you're selling? And that goes into backgrounds and what type of camera you're using, you know. So it was massive. I thought that would have been fine. I thought, take a picture with my phone and put it on the Facebook or Instagram. There's a lot more to it, you know, and that took me a wee while to come to terms with. Lucky enough, my partner she loves TikTok and stuff like that, and she's always on Instagram, so she was a big help that way. And honestly, I learned an awful lot. Probably what was a lot easier was the admin side, you know, around your business registration and, you know, finding an accountant. You know, that was a lot easier than I thought it would have been. So when I registered my business, it took 5 minutes online to register as a limited company here, whereas I thought it would have went into a lot more detail, you know, and I would have had to provide all these different documents. no, none of that. And I went and seen an accountant, and I thought I had all these printouts of bank statements and all with me, and was ready for a credit check, and I was ready for the accountant to ask me all these questions, and the accountant just says, "Sign that, okay, that's you." You know, I mean, all right, no problem. Away I went. But again, it's for me personally, it was the things that I thought I knew, I didn't know enough about, you know, and I'm still learning as well. You know, I'm still learning how to take the proper picture and the proper lighting as well. And all that costs money too, you know, but I found a couple of ways around it, you know. So get yourself an old white sheet, you know, a bed sheet, you know, and iron it and have it out for your background too. And, you know, you try your best just to save money, especially when you're starting out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Now's your chance. We're going to wind up shortly.
Can I just say one quick thing, just again on the youth work thing? And Thompson was very honest there about, I don't know if I would have done it at that age because there was so much going on. We talk about a thing in youth work about helping young people become creators and not consumers. And it's actually, it's
I'm sorry, Paul, can you come closer to the microphone?
Yes, will do.
Thank you.
Is that better?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Not really.
Oh, you have to shout.
We'll shout then. Okay. That better? I can put headphones on if that's any benefit. But I haven't hit mute or anything, have I? No.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. There's a thing called helping young people become creators instead of consumers. Okay, where they see themselves and everything is being done to them, and they are powerless. And we're working to help young people become creators of creating new things, and that includes business. And the impact that has on a person's self-esteem and how they view their life and their purpose is life-changing. So it's really just, and this is why I really want youth workers and youth organizations to pick up on the opportunity of entrepreneurship, because it's a chance to help a young person from seeing a life of working for somebody else, of not being powerful enough, you know, to affect change or to take control and become a creator. I honestly think it can really transform youth work. And I wish there was more support for 18-year-olds in the middle of all that's going on to help them say it is possible to become a creator. So it's just inspiring to hear Thompson's story for me today in terms of youth work.
Maya, did you want to put a point?
Yes, this is more directed to what Laura had said while she was speaking at the beginning of the meeting. She was talking mostly about, you know, like pop culture and to find your niche and whatnot. Okay, I'm coming from Malta, so it's a small community, and I feel that there is like a pop culture lag in Malta. So, you know, certain references, things are what are in. I mean, we can consume them online, but regarding a community, there is not really a physical one here. If I'm making much, I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes.
So I think to implement things like, you know, these Game of Thrones, like tourism and whatnot, I think it's great. But if there is such a small community, very, very niche, because, you know, we don't have a high population, I don't think it's really feasible to have something like that in a country like Malta. I think for us, it would make more sense to have something completely online, because like that, we are reaching a global scale, you know, which would open up more viewers and more people into the community. And like that, you know, I'm not scared about what my peers are saying, because I'll have other people from across the globe supporting.
And did you want to respond to that, Laura?
Yeah, I was actually just going to look up a girl that I know. She's an Irish girl, and I suppose, like, when we're talking about pop culture, it doesn't have to be forever or ongoing. It can be what's on trend at the minute. And what's hugely on trend is, and I think somebody mentioned in the chat, is deforestation and climate and being kind, or climate control and being kind. So this girl, I'm just going to find her. She's so what I'm saying is, you're talking about giving back and the social inclusion and social responsibility and social innovation. So what she does, and somebody mentioned repurposed clothes there earlier on, she gets oversized jumpers. So it's not about your getting something that fits, it's just about what the jumper says, and it says to be kind. And I'm just going to show you her stuff, and I'll share this. Or actually, no, what you know I'll do is just put into the link. So what I'm saying is that there are ways that you can have a business model that actually does give back to the community. And once you market that and have that in your website or on your brand materials, people are more likely to purchase, and it actually eases their decision making in doing that. Now, when you tap into your local market, what's actually going on in your market? What are people talking about? What's the trend? What do they need to say? And you can have, for example, merchandise that says that. It can be mugs, it can be t-shirts. And then to rebrand, or not rebrand yourself, but remessage, you can tune in to actually what's happening. And the likelihood is that deforestation, climate change, that's not going to go away anytime soon either. And as well as that, you can do two things as well. So you can have, for example, a pop culture image that's famous, for example, I don't know, Marilyn Monroe or the smiley face or Homer Simpson, and you can have them actually delivering the message. So you can be kind of creative with what you do. But what we're saying here as well is you start with one t-shirt, see how it goes, and explore and investigate. And I think what you're saying as well is very valid with the TikTok community. So you can actually, it's very important to have a call to action. So when you're in the TikTok community, you can have it as part of your message. If anybody's interested in this item or this product, let me know. And so you have to ask people for help. You have to ask them to buy from you. You're talking there, Thompson, about social media. It's really important your call to action is, here's my website for more information, or click and learn more, or follow me on Facebook. And that builds up your repertoire, and it builds up your community around you and gets people talking about you. Because there's a great thing there as well in terms of your community is, with Instagram, influencers are always looking to give really good content to their audiences. So if you can influence an influencer and they can talk about you, then that gives them great messages. So you're actually getting in front of their audience, and you're creating significant impact across. And that's the great thing about platforms, is they're across the globe. So there's really simple ways you can do that. As well, you have to just step back a bit and say, well, what way can I do this? What am I good at? So I'm not sure what is going on in Malta at the minute. I'm sure it's probably, I'm just giving those messages as an example, but this girl, Fiona, she has done some incredible work. And every time we go into her shop, it's out of stock. Like, she can't keep up with the demand. And everybody around my locality is actually wearing these clothes. They're really cool and funky, so, and different.
I think that's an excellent point from both of you. And the thing about pop culture is it is enormous, and it is moving constantly every day so fast. This is, I think, the advantage that young people have, being rooted in that community and in the communications, the speed of the communications. And tapped into all of that, whereas someone my age has to make a big effort to get involved. Where it comes, you know, to young people, naturally, that's what you grew up with. So that is something always to leverage and to understand as a strength, that what you call a community is also a market. If you want to be ruthlessly commercial about it, but you don't have to be ruthlessly commercial about it, because it really is a community, and it is things like climate change and so on, all of these big topics. You know, when you're a blogger, it doesn't have to be about posing in some spectacular location or looking good. It's also about expressing opinions and growing a group around you that shares your worldview, and it always can give back to a community. The better businesses and the better development route is remembering that you're giving back to your customers as well as taking from them. So Laura has posted that that link.
So
And
the first one is about just a write-up about her, and then the second one is into her store. Now this lady, sorry Moira, she's actually a single mom, and I know her, she's a green cafe. So she started with nothing and she built up her business. That's only in the last year.
Excellent. So we are 20 minutes over time now, which, you know, is not necessarily a bad thing. It's great to see everybody engaged and interested and sticking with us to the end. I think the discussion has been incredibly interesting. So I think I'm going to wind it up there. David, if you could give me back the screen, I'm just going to do a quick sort of future, what we're going to be doing in the next 2-3 days. And we had a question over the break as well about what is happening on Friday and what the competition is about. So I'll just give you a bit of a heads up about that, if I can get control of the screen again. No, technology is defeating us for the moment. Ah, that's me back. Okay, so just to update you with tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be, first session is going to be about planning a business. So that's going to pick up on some of the things that we've discussed about, you know, different quite simple approaches to getting kicked off in a business. Then we have, as we have had yesterday and today, we'll have a couple of pop culture businesses from Croatia. One of them giving us a creative musician's perspective, and I can't wait to hear what that's going to be about. And also we're going to talk to an events business who use pop culture elements in their business to develop their business. And then we're going to have to Christina from Croatia, who's going to be talking to us a bit about crowdfunding. And that's the reason why we've picked crowdfunding. There's lots of different sources of funding, but they all tend to be nationally based. But crowdfunding is the one thing that crosses all of our communities across Europe. So Thursday then is the regional group session, and it's an opportunity for young people to get together with group leaders and just sort of ask questions or develop ideas. And I forgot to say to you that tomorrow at some stage we will get sent to you a very simple Word template with just a few headings and just a few questions to kind of prompt your thinking. And the goal of that would be that you would come into the session on Thursday, you'll work on potentially an idea or a quick presentation or pitch. And then on Friday, the session would be around presenting those ideas to us all in a way that is relatively simple. We're not asking for pages and pages and pages of writing. We just want a quick kind of pitch around the germ of an idea that you might have had. And we'll see on Thursday how many people are interested in presenting an idea on Friday. But the idea then is that on Friday, we will have a voting session after the presentations, and you'll be choosing your favorite of those presentations. And that person will then get a €100 Amazon gift voucher, just to recognize the fact that, you know, they have been chosen, and possibly a small investment in some kind of, not very much of course, but just maybe starting you off in a business journey. So that is the rest of the week, and I do hope that you can join us tomorrow, and I do hope that you will be able to start thinking about putting together an idea and a presentation for Friday, and we'll support you as much as we can as we go along. So thank you very much for sticking with us. Thanks for coming along today. Thank you to all of the presenters and speakers. You were terrific. Couldn't have done it without you. You're wonderful. And come back tomorrow. It'll be the same link. If you log in at 1 o'clock, UK time and 2 o'clock European time. Hope to see you then. Jai, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Cheerio.
You need to stay on for a minute.